Hello, everybody. I've been gone for a long time, and I'm gonna cut my hair today. Yeah! Hi, how are you? My name is Sherry. I'm an adult with ADHD, probably autism as well. I like to crochet. I have made this shirt, and I look bad, but that's because it's early, and I miss you guys. And my cat is getting very big. Let's see if I can turn around then. She's getting big. Oh, you can't see. Ronnie! Hi, honey. Hello. Hi, honey. How are you? So pretty. Oh, sorry. I'm probably making you guys dizzy. I keep meaning to do a video, and I've been so lost in doing all my crochet stuff that I need to come back to the world of the living. I need to get outside. But I just wanted to update you guys really quick because I want to do a better video for you. But I've been in my head. I don't know if there's any fellow INFPs around. You could go into your head and stay there for very long periods of time. Weeks, months, years. Yeah, yep. I could go into my head and do planning, problem solving, all kinds of stuff. Most people are normal and they'll do something until they're tired and they'll remember other things they have to do. And me, I don't care so much. I think maybe it's like an autism, ADHD thing that I hate switching tasks to the point that it's like painful. And right now I'm in crochet mode. So I kind of showed a picture of this, and this t-shirt's pretty comfortable. The sleeves kind of stick out a little bit. So I think I made the armholes too wide. Let me hold this over here. Sorry guys. I think I need to make these smaller. So I started a new one. Now, I did follow a tutorial with another crochet artist, but I'm kind of learning different kinds of garment construction. I've done a million cardigans. I've done a million afghans, cardigans, scarves, hats, different kinds of scarves. Cardigans, there's a couple I would like to try. I want to try doing a hexagon cardigan. I know how to do a stitch that looks like little kitties. So I want to do a cat stitch. This just looks very strange, doesn't it? And you know what? I got this yarn on sale at a discount store for $3.99. And this is Lion Brand mandala. So this looks like regular yarn when you're looking at it. Everything looks really distorted. It looks like in the camera, so I apologize. It's still early in the day. What day is today? Today's Friday. My house has gotten bad, but that's okay. So I've been working on a few different things, and I want to do an actual good video for you guys. But some of you, sorry, I keep moving this. My arm has still been healing, so I think that I hurt a tendon when I fell about a month ago. It still hurts. If it was a muscle, it would have been healed by now. I've been doing, I was doing some experiments to see what kind of movements hurt my arm. You can't see it from here. I'm holding this with my hand. Curtis did fix my stand. I have to go get it and set it up so I can not be holding my phone with my hand. But I noticed that if I take my arm and pull it up with my other arm, until I get almost all the way up, it doesn't hurt. It's only when I try to lift it that it hurts. So that made me feel like, okay, something isn't out of place pinching So I was trying to, okay, so I'll explain this real quick. As somebody who's had I'm not an expert. I'm not a nurse. I need a shower today and cut my hair. I might bring you guys with me while I cut my hair. Do you want to see a transformation? Should I do a transformation today? I started a makeover like a month or so ago, and then I kind of stopped. But yeah, that would be good because you see me in the morning without makeup, and yeah, I've been watching different tutorials. I've done different kinds of haircuts for myself, and that would be a fun story. Now that we have people like Brad Mondo who have really good hair tutorials, has saved me lots of time because I've actually been cutting and layering my own hair for at least 20 years. At least 20 years. Let's see. I know that I was cutting my own hair at that house, and I lived there between 2004 and 2008. So I think I was cutting my own hair before then. I'm pretty sure. So that's at least 20 years I've been cutting my own hair. And I used to have like a ruler, and I had marked at different inches. And because I didn't have some kind of thing where you could just put your hair in a ponytail and trim it and know how it fell so it would fall right, and then just like clean up the ends. I kind of suspected that something like that would be helpful, but I don't think I ever wanted to try it. And so I'm really grateful for Brad Mondo that his channel exists. He has a lot of fun videos. So if you want to see a hairdresser with tutorials on how to cut your own hair, Brad Mondo is the one I generally follow. I've done the wolf cut. I've done the butterfly cut. I haven't done their new Sabrina Carpenter one. It's all different variations of the same thing. So yeah, if you put your hair in a ponytail at different parts of your scalp and then cut it at that angle, by the time it falls, it ends up falling in a specific way that gives you layers. So if you live in a very rural place and you can't get there's no hairdressers around you, you can do some of these tutorials and cut your own hair. So as far as my plans go with my hair, I'm all over the place. So I haven't been here in a really long time. So I'm sorry. But so yeah, I'm going to be cutting my hair. I actually, this past week, and the reason why I'm going to cut it before I wash it, because when you cut your hair, what ends up happening is the little hairs can get into your clothes, or if you're just wearing it, even if you're just wearing a t-shirt. So I like to cut my hair first and then jump in the shower. I could shower first, but then when I cut my hair, the little teeny hairs, they get everywhere. They get everywhere. And even if I change and try to brush it off, it just gets itself into my clothes and it pokes. It's annoying. It's a sensory thing. So what have I talked to you about so far? I go into my head. You already know this. Oh, hi to anybody who is new. I am a hot mess today. I'm all over the place, but that's okay. It's part of what I have. So this is really informal. I realize that you guys are probably starting to get worried about me. There's some things that are exciting and some things that are just bad habits of mine. One bad habit of mine is that I can, in different times in my life, either when I am going through a rough time or I'm in a transition in my life. I'm sure there are other situations, or like if I go into a depressive episode, I go into what I call falling into my head or going into my head. So I'm not literally falling and hitting my head, but I can become very withdrawn and go in. And there's some strengths that go with that. I can do very, very deep, deep thinking. And I love to, if this might be interesting to those of you who are interested in psychology, spirituality, symbolism, all of that stuff. I love to think about those things. I used to meditate and have a much more balanced approach to life, and I need to get back to that. I do want to pick up my house and I want to burn some incense. Um, I have kind of been approaching that whole, Phoenix part of my life, and I know that some huge changes are going to come. And I've kind of been resisting that because I don't know what it is yet. These kind of things, if you have these phases in your life, it can come about a couple of different ways. For me, I have them happen, have had them happen multiple times in my life where it was just kind of like imposed on me. So either through, once was a divorce, once was a separation. So 2 times I've lost a home and extended people that I knew. And one had to do with school and then my dad and losing a place where I lived and then also losing a lot of my belongings. So every time that something like this happens, it's not like, it's traumatic, but it's not the same as having a loss. This kind of losses, it's, if anybody's into spirituality or symbolism, and don't worry if, I know we have people online here who have many different belief systems, and that's really not what this channel is about so much, even though I am spiritual. But I do believe in God, and everybody here is welcome. So if you are Wiccan, pagan, Christian, any kind of religion at all, I always try to, and I've done this since I was young, and this is, we can get into that conversation too if you like soon. I always try to, like when I was younger and I would hear about people who were following like a path that I was scared of, like when I was in high school or early 20s, learning that maybe I knew some people who are Wiccan, and I'd have that knee-jerk fear reaction. I would have one friend who would react to that by finding people and things that have that same fear to reinforce her own belief. But when I have a fear-based reaction, I like to use it as an opportunity to see, because it's a trigger. So I'm like, okay, where do these fears come from? Do they come from a higher power? Do they come from God telling me not to do this or not to learn about this? Or is it fear because somebody else told me, or a book told me, or Hollywood told me? And if it's not truly from within me or what I feel, because sometimes you get those feelings. If you're spiritual, if you have had a connection to your higher power in your life at one point or another, you know what I'm talking about. You'll get a feeling. So I had a lot of fear. And so what I did over time was I got to know and got close to people of, not all at one time. It would just be, maybe I met somebody and became friends with them, or maybe they were a coworker. And I would think, you know what, this is a real person who is a good person, and it's not my job to tell them what faith they should be. That would be equally hurtful if somebody felt their faith was right and was going to correct me. And I've had people do that, and it's very hurtful because they might be, my cat. Oh, have you guys want to see how big she's getting? Oh, look at how big she's getting. She's like, put me down. She's getting so big. I've run out of shorts. I made a whole bunch and now I've run out. And oh, she's so pretty. She's still getting into mischief, and it's kind of funny because please don't. No, please don't. You'll see things that are covered with blankets and sweaters because she gets into them. Right now, I have a lot of clutter on my coffee table. And that's because I've been doing a lot of crocheting lately. And she's sniffing all my supplies. She's looking for rubber bands and yarn. No, 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 but love. Ah, this is cute. This is a yarn bowl my mom gave me. So those of you who don't crochet or knit or anything, please don't. She's looking for balls of yarn that she can grab. See? Oh, hold on one second. I might as well record it. We can look at this like, oh God. We can look at this like body doubling, because now I'm having to clean. Girl, please don't. Please don't. Here, play with your toy. Oh my goodness. So I was thinking I might do body doubling with you guys if you want. And that is, oh God, my pins. This just has some, the crochet. Oh God, that has to be so loud for you guys. Crochet hooks. Oh my gosh. When they're metal. Oh my gosh. So, yeah, she's still doing the same things, but oh God. See, I am worried about her because I use the rubber bands to put around my balls of yarn, and that's not good. She should not have the rubber bands. Hold on one second. That was fun. What did you find? What do you have? What do you have, honey? No, see, this is what I'm talking about. Where did you get this? Honey, no. Yeah, she keeps finding, and I don't understand how these rubber bands, I look so gross. I don't understand why these rubber bands are getting everywhere, because I'm trying to be very mindful. I'm afraid of her getting these. Now, I understand from a cat point of view that these are fun to play with, but I did learn from the vet, and we brought her to the vet, that one of the things that can, hold on one second. I've been keeping them in there. You know what's kind of funny? She was being perfectly quiet until I started talking on here. Say hi. Say hi. Say hi. She wants my coffee. Yeah, so this is probably a really bad video, but I have gotten out of the habit of recording and updating you guys. I made a whole bunch of kitten shorts, which was great, and it allowed me to schedule some videos out ahead of time so that I could take advantage. Oh God, I don't really want to edit this. I'm tired. Take advantage of the algorithm. It's actually going to be really nice out. I keep saying I'm going to take a kayak ride, but now that I hurt my arm, I think I hurt my tendon. So I'm kind of all over the place, but look at that. Look at the kitten. Hey, lady. Yep, those are her toys. Those are her toys. That's some clothes I have to fold, but yeah. So I figured, you know what? It's early in the day for me, even though it's noon. Well, it's almost noon. Oh, because I've been up late crocheting. When I'm talking to you, it's stimulating for her, which is kind of interesting. Hi, because she was sleeping. Do you have to get into my yarn? Please don't. Please don't. Hold on. Oh my gosh. This might be completely unwatchable. I'm just waiting for her to knock over more stuff. I have a lot of toys for her, and every day I play with her. I have to, because she is a kitten, and if you have a kitten or a cat, you really do have to play with them. It's not fair to make them a pet and dependent on you. It's not fair to have them trapped in your house and be dependent on you if you're not going to take care of their needs. And exercise and play is very high up on a cat's needs because their number one instinct is to hunt. So, this video is going to be a hot mess. I'm not organized mentally. I'm not organized. My brain has just kind of gone to sleep beyond my goal. So, what happened? I don't even remember what was going on the last time I made a video for you guys. Incidentally, this t-shirt I made, this is a color changing yarn, and I just sorted it. I just pulled out all the yarn, and what I did was I sorted out the colors and cut them and rolled them into individual little balls of yarn. And then I took each one and divided it in half. So I'd have enough for the stripe on one side and for the other side. So these look like separate yarns, but my arm's really hurting me, guys. I'm sorry. But this shirt, this is not a great angle, is all from one skein of yarn. And this particular pattern, I put the tutorial for the artist who actually created this top because I thought it was a good one to learn if we have any crocheters who want to branch out and learn how to do a garment. This is pretty simple. If you know how to do double crochets, if you know how to do a double crochet stitch, a chain stitch, and a single crochet stitch, you can make this top. They're just straight rows, and they're 2 panels. They're basically just 2 rectangles you sew together. So the back is 1 panel and the front is 1 panel. It's just a rectangle. And then you leave a space for the armhole and you stitch up the side. And then the same thing on the other. And then on the 2 panels here, let's see if I can. Let me turn this light on. So if you look, this is where I stitched up. And it looks like it's an oval here, but that's just because of how it's stretched. But this front piece, you can tell it goes straight across here. This is 1 rectangle. And it's being stretched, so because it's conforming its yarn, and when you crochet it, it will, once it's woven into interconnected loops, it's able to stretch and give and have that soft feeling. So I've never worked with skinny yarn. I've pretty much stayed with the same width yarn because it's just easier for me. So I specifically will, when I want to make a gift for somebody, whether it's a scarf or a hat or an afghan or anything, I always look for patterns that have the same width yarn that I use. Now, anybody who, I really do have to get that stand because my arm's hurting. Anybody who crochets or knits knows the problem of shopping for yarn. And the problem being, you always want more yarn. Always want more yarn. And I've purposely avoided buying different kinds of yarn, different weights, for the most part. I've gotten some bulky, and I've had, maybe from years ago, I bought some skinnier yarns when I was first learning in my 20s. I think I started learning to crochet before I was diagnosed with ADHD, so it's been at least 25 years. And I might have bought some thinner yarns that I've had and I haven't used. I think I bought them because I thought they were really pretty and I didn't know about. So thinner yarns and thicker yarns, you have to use a different size hook to work with them. And yes, so when you're doing a pattern, I'm trying to make this quick and not terribly boring for those who are not interested in this. When you have a pattern, unlike a sewing pattern, so if you have a sewing pattern where you go out and you buy so many yards of fabric to make a garment, you'll have pattern pieces that are in specific shapes, and you put it on top of the fabric you actually cut around the dotted lines. It's this like tissue paper. And so you'll have the shape of maybe like one panel of a pant. Or if you're doing a top, even if it's like this shape, it will be in the shape of the actual piece of fabric. And there'll be little dotted lines around that will give you a little extra for the seam allowance. And you would cut around that. So you'll have a piece of fabric that's a very specific size. Now, when you're making a garment where you're weaving, I don't know what she's getting into now. When you're weaving a material like a piece of yarn, where's my yarn? Where isn't my yarn? This is a pretty one, by the way. So this, just to show you, do you see how thick this is? This is the typical, when you go into Walmart and you go into the yarn aisle and you see what's most common there, which is, let's turn this. What you doing? Look at how big she is, guys. Oh. Ooh. She's getting huge. She's almost as big as a full-grown cat. I'll come back to this and I'll come back to the cat. So why is she talking about crochet? Well, I had an idea that struck me. So anybody who follows me who also is neurodivergent. So a big part of what I started my channel with, I am going to have to edit these. So this makes me look weird. It looks like I'm wearing a blanket. I don't know how I feel about this pattern. It kind of goes on my neck. So I'm trying to design one. So I was trying to come up with an idea of how I could, and this kind of did it. The next one was the same kind of yarn. It's also a color changing yarn, and it's actually the same brand. And I started this panel here, and I tried, it goes straight across, but I tried to design it to come down. So we'll see. It's kind of a little wonky though, and it was really hard to do. I don't think that that's practical. I'm going to have to find a pattern that is designed specifically, just because this is really hard for me to replicate. Oh, sorry. So the reason why I usually get into crochet a lot this time of year. So usually, do you want to hang out with me? Grab yourself a coffee. Usually this time of year, I get really into sweater weather's coming. We're almost in October. Usually, but yeah, this looks weird, right? Looks like I'm wearing a blanket. It's really soft now that I've been wearing it. I was wearing it all day yesterday, and it's actually very comfortable. So I'm making a second one to see how it comes out. So if you have ADHD or autism, chances are you have had issues with employment, right? For different reasons. Now, if you have ADHD or autism or both, we're all so vastly different from each other. We all have different challenges and different traits and qualities and personalities and different things that we might need support with. But a general, and I'm very high masking. Part of it was the way I was raised, which is not any shade to my parents at all, because that's just how you raised kids back then, right? So I was born in the mid-70s, but my parents had me a little bit later in life. So my parents were born in the mid-40s, and technically I always thought my parents were baby boomers, but I guess they are from the silent generation. So the values and the way you raise kids were completely different back then. And now there's like gentle parenting and everything's so different now. Everybody's like the culture, our attitudes towards how children develop and the things we know now is completely different. So back then they pretty much felt like kids had to behave. And if kids weren't behaving or they weren't doing what they were told, you pretty much felt that they were doing it on purpose, and they could simply choose not to do that. So, and you would want to be strict with kids because the idea was it's your job to teach and shape young minds. So, if you had a child that was talking too much, like me, constantly moving, irritating people, interrupting people, never shutting up, maybe I would take things personally. I didn't necessarily get along with other kids my own age. I didn't know. We didn't know. We didn't know. We didn't know about ADHD back then at all. When I grew up in the 70s and 80s, nobody talked about this stuff. At least nobody even thought to give me any kind of learning disability testing until one teacher, and it was the middle of my senior year in high school. Only one teacher have ever thought that because I was so smart in some ways. I'm not being egotistical. I'm not putting myself up because it's part of who I am. I have certain gifts, but I also have things I struggle with that are easy for the average neurotypical person. So there are things that I need a lot of support with just to function, and I also have comorbidities of major depression and it was a generalized anxiety disorder. I think it was some kind of anxiety disorder and complex PTSD. So the last 2 years or so, since I have been in counseling, I've done a lot of work learning about stuff about my ADHD that I never knew when I was diagnosed in the Y2K era because they just didn't know. And I've met a lot of people here on YouTube, which has been such a blessing, and a lot of you who have interacted with me, which I've been really, really grateful. And I've learned a lot. And I feel like I have a lot in common with my friends, some of you here who have autism. And it runs in my family as well, which I didn't know growing up either. So it's very strange to me that I did have one teacher. And I also want to, I know I don't need to apologize because you guys tell me not to, and I really thank you for that. But for those who don't know me well yet and may have seen some of my content, I want to apologize ahead of time in case it's frustrating. I don't have an editor. I'm just me and my camera, and I might tell you things more than once because I forget. So if I've already talked to you about something previously, just let me know. I've lost my train of thought again. So yeah, I haven't been doing these videos in a little while. I think it's at least been, has it been a month? Has it been 2 weeks? I don't even know. I've lost track. I'm going to have to go back and look at when I posted it. So usually around the last week of August, the last at least 2 years, maybe 3, I go crochet crazy because I start thinking, ooh, spooky season's coming, and there are certain scary movies that I like, and so I don't have a lot of people around me who like to do things that I enjoyed when I was younger, and it's kind of lonely. I loved Halloween. I loved, of course, I'm an adult now, so I wouldn't dress up and go trick-or-treating like when you're a little kid. And yeah, it would be nice if I had little kids to bring trick-or-treating. And I've done that too with friends' kids when I was like in my younger 20s, and that's fine. I don't have a need to do that. But I don't get trick-or-treaters where I live. And we've been here for almost a decade. And the last house, which is pretty much the house that I grew up in since age 14, we almost never had trick-or-treaters ever. So that was really depressing. But I would really enjoy those things. So, when you're in school up to, high school, there are other people who enjoy holidays. So even if the people that you live with don't, you could enjoy getting into the spirit of different holidays at school. And I love the changing of the seasons, right? And I used to love putting up decorations, and God bless my mom. I love her so much. The very next day I had to take all the decorations down, which I get because I kind of would go crazy with it. But I feel like nobody around me really cared, and it wasn't fun. And I didn't have siblings to play games with and do things with. That wasn't fun. And this is not at all a dig on the people I live with, but my fiance, who I love dearly, still, I don't love him any less, but he is very responsible person, very loving. He takes care of us. He does so much for us. I'm very grateful for him, and I love him. I do. I really do. But no matter how good of a match you have romantically with somebody, you're never going to find somebody that you have 100% in common with. You're just not. It's not. You're going to find somebody who's really good, has some really, really good qualities, and some that you don't jive with so much. Otherwise, we'd be in a relationship with ourselves. And that's like, that would be weird. And it's good to be in a relationship with somebody who has some things different from you because it helps you to grow. He and I are very opposite in some ways. She's getting into more of my stuff. She's getting heavy, guys. Look at, she's almost a full-grown cat. Hi. Oh, she's 7 pounds. So we brought her to the vet this past week. My mom came with me. And she's helping me out financially. Oh, I'm all over the place. I'm really, really distracted. I did take my medicine from doing beads. Yesterday, this past week, I had to throw a blanket on my coffee table because my crafts are all up here. And I really have to start putting them away. And I wasn't because I knew that the very next day, I'm like blocking her. No, I'm sorry, baby. I'm sorry. What is this here? Oh, yeah. The pins. If it makes a noise, it's interesting to her. What was I saying? So I wanted to update you guys. I haven't been here in a while. I've been obsessed with crocheting. Why have I been obsessed with crocheting? One, because I tend to do that this time of year. Once sweater weather starts coming, I start to want to get cozy and start making sweaters. And also, too, because I don't really have a lot of income, a lot of times in the winter, I can make gifts. And so if I start at the beginning of the fall, that gives me enough time. I don't know if we're going to be really doing Christmas this year. And honestly, I don't have kids, and it's been so many years now, so, it doesn't really matter. I was kind of sad that Mom and Curtis said we weren't doing Christmas last year. Specifically told me not to get presents, so I didn't. And then she ended up getting presents anyway, and that made me sad. Because I enjoy giving presents. That's the fun for me, So yeah, two things that, you ever hear of love languages? Mine is giving gifts, and I like to do things that are thoughtful. I like to think of the person. Even when it's a friend, like on here, I'll remember things about you guys, different ones of you, and ask you how you're doing because I care, because it's being human, having humanity, I don't have a lot of friends, but the friends I do have, I care about, and I have a few in real life. I don't know, is that an autism thing? I don't need a lot. And I think because when I went through a divorce, I ended up losing. And when I went through separation and divorce, I lost all of my friends. All of them. including friends that I had for many years before I ever met my ex. And I never understood it. I still don't get it. So, and I won't really get into it too much because it's history. It happened a long time ago and it's not relevant to now. But I think just going through that was so traumatic in the sense that things that I thought were secure and part of my life weren't, and that something could happen that make people that I thought I know act in ways that I would never think in a million years. You know what? It takes a long time, and you can have friendships for years, and to all of a sudden lose them, people that you've known so well, people that were your maid of honor, after a little bit of time, just suddenly never talk to you again. And you have no idea why. It's really painful. And after that, I was like, you know what? I don't care. I do, but I wasn't worried because I know I can make friends. I don't have problems making friends. I'm not being conceited. I'm just a good person and I care about people. And I enjoy meeting new people and talking with them. And I've made friends with customers at my workplace. So I don't have a problem meeting friends, but I do have a problem trusting people. So after that, I don't trust people the same way. And that was 2008 to 2010, somewhere in there. Some of them it was, of course, anybody who goes through that kind of a separation, a divorce, you know that you're probably going to lose touch with the extended friends and family that were connected with that person. But you never in a million years think that you'll lose your friends. And I still, yeah, it bothers me deeply. But you know what? And I tried to reach out to them because I thought there was a lot of stuff that happened that was just like really dramatic and effed up, that I thought maybe they were like, whoa. Maybe they were just like, I like you both and I can't deal. I figured that it was probably too much. And they were probably just like, I can't be friends with them because I got to protect my own sanity. Something like that, maybe. And I kind of knew that happens because I kind of went through that with somebody I knew who had a disability. So if you have a disability or you have depression or you have any of these things, people will treat you differently. You'll start to see family members and close friends will go away. So I've experienced that in my own life when I was young, when I was 14, when we lost my brother. He died suddenly. Well, I don't know if you guys want me to talk about that at all. That was really traumatic. But it's human nature, right? So, especially if people haven't experienced loss themselves, they feel uncomfortable. They want to just go out and have fun. And if you're in depression, our culture thinks that you should grieve according to a specific timeline, and then you should get over it. And yes, I understand that if you are able to do that, it's good for you because you shouldn't stay there too long. Grieving isn't something that works according to when you want it to. Grieving has its own timeline, and it's completely different for everybody because it all has to do with how you deal with loss. And that's complicated, right? So what happens is, people will come visit you. People will really care. Sometimes I had a friend that brought me like a cake or a bread or something that she baked for me, which I thought was super sweet. But yeah, people got distant. So, and I had really understanding family and I was close to my parents and I was close to family. So I was kind of protected in the sense that maybe because I was neurodivergent, I was able to deal with that better. Because I was used to not knowing how to have friends when I was little. So I was, sorry. So I was fine if, I knew I would be fine if I didn't have friends. It made me really sad, but eventually I came to terms with that one, you can't control other people. Two, sometimes it's about them and not you. And three, you have to give people you love who love you space to decide what's right for them. And sometimes, and some of the people maybe aren't as caring as you think they are. Or, like with some people, it might be too much for them. It might be really uncomfortable. And so they distance themselves. And they probably feel really bad about it. But that's life. And that sort of thing is very common in divorce, too. Especially if there's one with a lot of emotions. And I had a lot of emotions. I was not mature. I can't even tell you how much I grew from that. It was very traumatic. I'm sure for other people that is too, but I'm only in control with me. I'm only in control of what are my issues. What are the things I need support with? What can I control with how I behave? How can I control how I treat others? I can't make somebody be a good person. I can't make somebody treat me well. All I can do is decide what's right for me. So if people can pull away from me, I'm not going to take that personally now. Because if somebody cared enough and I cared enough to actually help me be a good person, if I did something wrong, which for years I was scared, like that I did something hurtful. I blamed myself. I was so shocked that I lost my girlfriends. I still don't get it. I still don't get it. I have known people with personality disorders and have since had a lot of counseling and a lot of education. And I've had to do a lot of inner work for myself because I was very naive. And I don't want to say I had to learn to not care because I do care. But through that painful chapter of my life, which then brought me to a point where I had to actually get help because for the first time I wanted to not be here, and I had to get help for that. But yeah, so my whole life was about worrying about other people, worrying about another person in my life. And then whatever guilt that I had for not being there for them, not being a good friend to my friends, having shame that I did something wrong with them. But you know what? Over the years, I had to realize if somebody really wanted to be my friend, they would have reached out to me. They would have kept contact. And if that person didn't want to be my friend anymore, I have to respect that and not necessarily take it personal. And that sounds crazy, but I had to learn that. Because what can I do? What can we do? What can any of us do? I'm not going to be shamed anymore. I'm not. What is that? That doesn't solve anything. It doesn't make me a better person. The only thing that would make me a better person if I did something wrong was if somebody told me what I did wrong so that I could learn and change. But if somebody doesn't even talk to you, and so you don't even know, I can't feel guilty about something that somebody doesn't bother to tell me what I did wrong. You know what? And if somebody is meant to be your friend, they will. And it sounds really kumbaya and cheesy, but live and let live, and you have to let go and not be bitter. And that's really hard. And I have to feel that about myself. I can't tell you guys to feel that way too, because that is like totally depending on the situation. And a lot of neurodivergent people have gone through significant abuse, and I have not. So that is not the situation that I'm talking about here. I'm just talking about regular life stuff, and then people choosing not to be your friend and you not knowing why. And that happens a lot with us as neurodivergents, right? The more and more I've learned about ADHD, the more I realize it has so much in common with autism. So whether or not I have autism as well, we have a lot more in common than was initially thought. I remember it was more recent. I think it was since I've lived here. So somewhere in the last 5 to 10 years, I saw a video that was showing kids, like ADHD kids, like in the playground or at school and in their own world, and how they have social challenges. And so things that I had issues with growing up that I wouldn't necessarily, like I kind of knew it had to do with my ADHD, but those kind of social challenges, until you learn about it, you would just never think that. Especially if you haven't gone to counseling to learn about what ADHD really is. You will just think the stereotype is just you're just distracted. You just need to take medicine. You'll be fine. Like it's no big deal. But it's not. It has to do with you have physical differences in your brain. And also a big component that I've learned more recently is that I did not know our brain develops slower. So, you know how they say our brain is still developing until the age of 25? I wouldn't be surprised if the neurodivergent brain is ADHD anyway. I don't know if it's the same with autism, but your brain is still developing later, I believe. Let me double check on that. But I know that at least it's developing slower. It has something to do with the dopamine as well. Since there's lower amounts of dopamine, I believe even when you're young and your brain needs the dopamine to develop. So it ends up developing slower. So your maturity and your mental abilities to do certain things, be aware of certain things, and grow in a certain way will be delayed. And you also may not understand social cues. You may be in your head. You may behave in a way that is othered and bullied. So a lot of similar, maybe different, because there's different cause for it than if you're like a high masking, they'd say lower support needs, autistic kid that goes undiagnosed because of that. Like we know that is an issue with autism. So that's something that is already known. But I didn't really know to the extent, and it's true. I had some friends, but because I was made fun of a lot, I didn't necessarily trust that somebody was my friend. I didn't know and it was more an insecurity in it was more an insecurity on my part. That I didn't know who was being sincere and who was just being nice, but then bullying you behind your back, because I didn't know how to tell. So and this is not to feel sorry for me, but this is a combination of my parents from a different generation. It's not important if kids have birthday parties or not. It's really funny because both my parents, my dad wanted a whole lot of kids, and they had me. And I wasn't even like a rambunctious kid or anything, as they realized they didn't want a lot of kids after they had me. And then I was it. It's like, gee, thanks. Um, they had to do what was right for them. There are all kinds of considerations if you're a parent, whether or not you have other kids, you know? I'm sure that there were other reasons why they didn't that had nothing to do with me. I mean, finances, you know, if you're ready, there's so many issues. And at one point when I was a teenager, they were actually thinking of adopting another child. And I can't really get into reasons why, but I talked them out of it because I had certain issues growing up with being in a really strict household. And I didn't feel it was fair to put an adopted child through that environment. I wonder sometimes if it would have been better, if it would have been okay after all. But, you know, coulda, shoulda. I'm really going down a rabbit hole. I'm going down a rabbit hole. It's an hour. I'm going to turn this off. One, I'm considering doing a crochet business. And some of you who have neurodivergence have issues fitting into the very narrow, strict requirements, the hierarchical, the social, just the things that are required of you in a typical environment. I mean, we're like square pegs in a round hole. And you can mask. I mean, I've been masking my whole life, not even knowing I was different. Well, I did know I was different, but I thought something was wrong with me. So I hid it. And I desperately didn't want something to be wrong with me. So I did what I could to fix it and hide it. Even in my 20s, I remember thinking about that a lot. I thought I was insane. Like, I thought I had mental illness or something. And I didn't understand it. I didn't understand, like, why I had the issues I did at all. I had no idea. I don't know if it would have done any good for me to know back then. Yeah. So, a lot of us, I remember I heard this figure, and if I go looking for it, there'll be different figures from different sources. So I want to go back and get some good information for you guys. But the estimate is like 60 to 70, like around 70% of neurodivergent. And this is what used to be called high functioning, which is hurtful to people of both groups of different varying support needs. We'll say high masking. I was surprised because I thought maybe the high percentage of autistic people who are unemployed or underemployed was because they took in all the people together and averaged it out. Because there are some people who are very, very high support needs and are not verbal and probably will not be able to be working. So I thought maybe that was why, but it turns out a very high percentage of people that we seem on the outside normal to you, like everybody else, even though we're not, high masking, are not able to work because of burnout, because it makes you sick, because you have no idea that you are holding so much inside, and you have no idea how much you are conforming yourself to expectations that aren't natural for you. And you've been conditioned to do so through punishment, if you're my generation and older, for so long since you could actually talk, that you have such a fear that it's so ingrained that you have no idea you're doing it. And there is it takes so much energy to do that, that you will burn yourself out, and you may end up eventually sick. Eventually, maybe you even fly off the handle and quit work and act in ways that are not who you are. She's getting into my stuff. Anyway, long story short, I can crochet, and I've been crocheting for many, many years. And even though I've been doing the garment that I have been making, which is, oh my God, which is a cardigan, I've been using the same, well, I've adapted a pattern. Actually, it's a combination. See this? She's like, oh, there's a yarn ball in there. Oh, she's doing it again. I think she just, when I start talking, I think it stimulates her. Yeah. It makes her, she hears that I'm in here talking, and so something's happening. So that wakes her up and makes her want to walk around the room, and my energy rubs off onto her. And so she gets interested in what's going on, and then she starts getting into my stuff when I'm on here more. Now, she does this anyway. I'm getting off topic. So potentially, so I ended up getting an idea for a potential job for me, and I'm learning about it right now. And that's potentially making crochet patterns. For the most part, I've been using the same or similar patterns over and over again, just because of it's easier for me. But I can read patterns. I can write patterns. I have written patterns for myself. I've taken patterns and adapted them and completely changed them. So, and I know most of the common stitches used. I know front post, back post. I know slip stitch, single crochet, half double crochet, treble crochet, puff stitch. I think there was one that was like a bubble stitch, V-stitch. So I know a bunch of stitches. And even though I might be rusty, I can look up the individual symbols. And I've created patterns for myself. And they may have been started off based on a certain kind of construction or pattern, but then I kind of went off in a different direction. So I've already been doing that. And I never thought of doing it as a job because, you know, sometimes people sell them. Crochet artists, there's a community of people on Ravelry who have crochet patterns, and sometimes they charge for their patterns, which is they absolutely should. It's like a piece of art that you've created, and the pattern is the directions for somebody else to make that same exact thing. And a lot of work goes into that. It's complicated. It seems simple. If you were to look at something like this, construction of this garment is simple. There are 2 panels. So technically I could create my own combination of stitches and do 2 panels, and I might do a different shape of the panel. But I can do that. It wouldn't be taking this pattern and altering it. I would be creating a new one from scratch. But there's enough artists out there who use this method of 2 rectangles that in itself cannot be copyrighted because it's a basic form of pattern construction. So certain things you can start with as basics and then create your own pattern from scratch. But there are different types of garment construction that I would have to learn. So that's fine. That's why I've been experimenting lately, and I've been like withdrawn and crocheting up a storm, finishing projects from last year. I did a Bruin sweater, which came out pretty good, and I've just been working on it on and off for like the last, I don't know how many years. I'll get into it, and then I don't want to look at it. You know, some of it might have to do with my feelings about sports. I'm not a sports person, but that has been my one thing that as far as sports go, because my fiance likes sports, that's the one that as a person with ADHD, I don't hate. So I've learned to kind of enjoy it being on in the background, and sometimes he teaches me about the rules, and then I can get interested because he starts telling me different things about the players. And then as a woman, you know, a lot of us care about connections and groups and families, and, you know, that's kind of a team doing a common goal is like a family or a work group. She's doing it again. I better not have any rubber bands there. She knows there's yarn under there. I'm in the middle of recording a video, honey. I've never had a tortoiseshell. I swear to God. Girl! taken to China. Anyway, so it never even dawned on me like I could do that as a job, or that I would want to, or that would be worth it, because she's trouble. Look at how big she is, guys. Look at how big she is. Look at how big she is now. She's getting big. She still tries to climb the curtains. And it's funny. I got to get some new updated videos for you guys. She tries to run up the cat tree, and then she's so big now that the cat tree starts to wobble. And it's so funny. She used to be able to jump up, and now she'll fall because it's almost like, and she'll catch herself. She'll be on the top and she'll go to sleep. There's like a little thing up there, but she's a little perch that she likes to sleep and take a nap on. But she's grown so much so quickly. She's almost double in size from when we first adopted her. So she'll get up on the top and she'll go to sleep, and her body will be like hanging off of it. And then sometimes she will be half awake and like end up falling off of it and then catching herself. It's funny. She still tries to climb the curtains, and it's like she's surprised that it's harder than she realized now because she weighs so much more. I think she was only a few pounds maybe 2 or 3 pounds when we first got her, because she was like not even 6 months old. How old was she? So she was born in March, early March. March, April, May, June. I think June. March, April, May, June. I think they said she was like 20 weeks, or was it 12 weeks? I don't know. But yeah. I can't believe we've had her that long. June, July, August, September. We've had her and then it's kind of like 3 months. I can't believe how fast she's gotten so big. Well, I'm gonna let you guys go. Yeah, I'm not even gonna edit this. It's like a hot mess, but I'm not gonna edit it. But I will put it out there because I thought I should at least show myself so that you guys don't worry about me. I'm okay. I haven't been in a depression. I have been withdrawn. I have been binging on fall things. When I say that I watch scary movies, they're in between what a child would watch. And like, I don't consider them horror. So, right now I'm watching the miniseries, Rose Red by Stephen King. And if you guys want to watch that, it's 4 hours because it's like 3 separate movies. You can find it here on YouTube, and that's where I've been watching it from. It's like impossible to find this time of year. But it's kind of sweet, and it's not really that scary. So things like Poltergeist is kind of a beloved movie because it has that family vibe. I like that. And so what I'll do this time of year is that I'll look on what's on demand and see if there are series, like franchises, that are free, or like which scary movies are free. And then I'll kind of like scroll through them to see. And it seems to be like a narrow window. I don't like things that are violent and psychologically disturbing. I don't like things that are like reality, that are about serial killers. I don't need to see that. I watch stuff that's fantasy so that it's spooky and it's scary, but you can detach from it and realize it's not real. Like Pet Sematary, I like Stephen King stuff. I do like The Shining. I do like Doctor Sleep is very good. But yeah, Rose Red is pretty good. And it's made for TV. So, and it is from like Y2K. So they didn't have CGI back then. So some of the effects are just people being made up, like having makeup like they're dead, or maybe they had animatronics or puppets. They didn't have CGI. So if you watch it now, it looks dated. You know, it might look cheesy to you, but that's the, sometimes that's the charm, you know? So put things into perspective of what you expect from them, and then you enjoy it more. Um, I do go through phases where I don't watch the Saw movies. I don't watch, like I said, anything that's realistic, like serial killers. Like, I haven't watched The Strangers. I haven't watched The Purge. I don't want to watch that. One thing that's fantasy that kind of traumatized me when I was young is The Descent. So if you're a very sensitive person, there are creatures, but it is scary, and yeah, that might mess you up. So don't watch that if you're like me. Don't watch The Hills Have Eyes, the new one, because I was like traumatized by it. It was too realistic. Like there was somebody tied up that was set on fire, and the effects were so realistic that, and it was like a father figure to the family, and everybody was crying, and it was so realistic. The guy actually was like burning. I don't know how they did it. Like you could watch his eye turn. Oh my God. I had to leave this in my 20s. I had to go into the other room. I was crying. It was so traumatic because it actually looked like I was watching this poor father burn to death. And it's like, I don't understand that. That's not my vibe. Good for you if that's your thing. I'm not judging, but I'm clarifying and rambling about all kinds of stuff. Oh, so I ended up seeing a YouTuber who is a crochet artist who was sharing how much money that she's made since she started having patterns. And it's not something that I would think would really make money, because I know that there's a really good there's a good community of people who crochet or knit and will always do so. So it's not, even though it's more in style now, it went out of style for a long time. There were always been a community of people, but it was just not something, it was before YouTube. It wasn't anything. So maybe you thought you were weird. Maybe it was you and your mom and maybe like one other person. But it was hard to find other people who had that similar interest. You thought you were weird or different. And it was kind of cool because you can make gifts for people and they thought that was really nice. But now, because of how we're all connected with the internet and social media, there's a huge community of people who are fiber artists, crochet artists, knitting artists that sell their patterns on Ravelry. Some people just post their patterns and they don't care. They're just happy. They're having fun and they're connecting with other artists and they're just sharing it for free. So yeah, you can find some free ones. And also, because I'm broke, so I know I can't really afford to be buying patterns, but I get it. And I think it's very important to be able to sell your work if you put a lot of work into it. But they sell for like between $5 and $20, so I'm not really thinking anything of it. But apparently some people make a decent amount of money doing that. So then I thought, wait a second. These patterns that they're selling are basic pattern. I could make those. I'm like, they're making money? I didn't think like enough people would be buying them. And then I was like, wait a second. My skills are good. I can make things even nicer than that. Maybe I could do that. So that was a huge light bulb moment for me, because some of you have already know I'm huge like arts family background. And at least many times I have wanted to sell my art. I've wanted to make a living doing something artistic or creative since I graduated high school. And I thought I would be able to figure out how to be the first family member to be able to do it. Because why on earth does God or the universe give you this creative gift and need to be creative? Like probably it's part of why you're here. Like, why on earth did you inherit this? If you can't do anything with it and you have to put it to the side so that you can go do something practical that you hate so that you can make money, and you may never even have time to do the creative thing. So I was kind of hoping since I graduated high school, I could find a way to do that. And I've never been able to do that. So, and I have followed many paths. I have explored many paths in different art forms. So I haven't really jumped in because I've been part of an artist guild years ago, or I've at least taken part in a lot of their activities because my mom was part of the guild. And she was, I can't remember if she was a treasurer, like she was one of the members, like she did some of the work. And we would go on field trips, and there were people in the artist guild who did different forms of art. So we probably had weavers and painters, and my mom has done many things, including stained glass, cross stitch, weaving, painting. I don't think she was huge into painting. My grandmother was an oil painter, and she did some stained glass and some other things. She sewed, she designed costumes. My aunt, who's my mother's sister, she was an interior designer. She actually created her own wedding gown, and I can't remember if she made a cousin's wedding gown. So we have a lot. We have a lot of, and my grandmother, my mom's mom, she created clothes and designed clothes. Some were for costumes for dance performances for a group, or if it was theater, I can't remember. And then somebody stole her designs, and tried to pawn them off as theirs. And I'll get information. And so that's why it's important to me that if I do this, that I do it correctly, because I know how painful that is for people who create art to get somebody else steals it and tries to make money doing it. And that's not cool. I understand that temptation, but that's really wrong on many, many levels, because it's hard to create something, especially today, because there's only so many ways that you can create a garment. There's only so many shapes that you could create, style. So you have to there's certain basic techniques, certain basic shapes. So some things are, there's only so many combinations of things you can do. So that's another thing that I was learning about. Like, where's the gray area? How could I create something from scratch where there's so many variations already? And how would I create something? Like, I might think I'm creating it. Like, I could have easily created this pattern by accident. These are just alternating rows of double crochets, double crochet chain stitches, single crochets, and, most patterns or fabrics are different stitches, moss stitch. They all look different. Like, this one's pretty simple. But I mean, there's only so many variations. So I kind of felt like, is it inevitable? Is it inevitable that how am I going to create something that somebody hasn't created? So I'm learning about that. I'm also learning about everything that goes into it. I also went ahead and double checked, because this girl was like making double digits, double thousands. And I'm like, it seemed kind of high, the amount that she's making. Because I'm like, how many people are buying these things? I know that a lot of people do. So if I got an Etsy shop, I need to know, is there a market for it? Like, how many actually sell? Is it something that's a fad? Are people going to stop doing it, like get into it and then stop doing it? How many are the people who are diehard? Like me, I've been crocheting for over 25 years. I'm always going to crochet. And so some years I'm going to do it and some years I won't, But the thing that was really appealing to me is that, let's say you make an art form, whether it's you're sewing, even if you're selling small things like scrunchies and dolls and things that you can make easily, like purses, handbags. So if you're sewing with material, or if you're crocheting, you're going to have a variety of things, and you're going to make some things that you can charge small amounts for. So you have to find, if you have a table at a craft fair, or if you sell things in a fine arts for a store, there's so much, whatever form you go through, whether you have your own website, you have an Etsy store, you go through the craft or the art show route, if you go into boutiques or art show or art galleries, they do take half, right? And they might be juried. Like my mom did that. So like all of these things, even if I haven't gone through the steps, somebody close to me has, right? My cousin who was doing ceramics and she was doing shows. If you're doing direct sales, that's like, the candlelight, the candlelight shows, the basket shows. It's just like Tupperware, like Mary Kay, and Avon. So you have to learn all about that business model. Yes, you could go the traditional route and go with a company like Mary Kay or Avon, and they give you the training, but you ultimately, and yes, you'll have that name brand behind it, so that when you go to do the marketing and you reach out and you build a clientele, you're still doing sales. And I do come from a sales background, so I can do that as well. But there's a lot that go into these kind of businesses. Then if you go into it starry-eyed, you're going to be disappointed because so much work, so much time, so much effort goes into so many aspects of running a business that the actual part you enjoy is eclipsed by all of that. So years ago, I had started to do my own jewelry business, and I did a lot of research on these different avenues. I also years ago, worked for a couple who sold gemstones, jewelry, crystals, like new agey stuff. But they did the craft show circuit, and I got to go with them and set up a tent, and that's a whole thing. So if you think I'm just going to join a craft show, there's a lot about it that may make you want to quit and make you disappointed. I'm not telling you not to do it. I'm just saying be aware. So that way you don't go starry-eyed and then become completely disillusioned and hurt that it turned out that you can't. So I'm just in this part right now, the last few weeks of me kind of being absent from here is I've been spending a lot of time I've just been going into that rabbit hole. And so I've kind of, my brain has just been hyper focusing on that, the monotropism, that it's become its own special interest, because if you do start a business, you have to go all in like that. So if you do, I know this, nobody's going to watch this, whatever. If you go into a business doing direct sales, what techniques would I have to do? Okay, I learned all about that. If you do the craft shows, I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. You have to pay a certain money for a table. You have to find out what circuit you're going onto. Is your work going to be juried? Are you making something that there's going to be 10 other tables doing the same thing? I was creating my own jewelry. Could I make enough inventory to support that? Probably not. When I was going to do my own jewelry business, I decided, well, let me see something. I probably couldn't create enough of an inventory because it's just me, one person. How much jewelry can you make, even in one day? So I thought, okay, I will set up, I'm going to do like a punch clock. I'm going to write the times. So if I sit in my kitchen and I treat it like a full-time job and I work on it X amount of hours, then I take a break and I'll start keeping track of my hours. A, so I know what to charge for my work, and B, I'll give it a few weeks to see, is this something that I can do? Because what you think you can do and what you actually want to do may be two different things. And if you don't know that as part of the process, again, you might get completely disillusioned because it's so easy to have this fantasy, right? Of, oh, it's going to be wonderful. Well, maybe it is. Maybe it is, but you don't know. So before you invest all of your time and all of your energy and all of your money, it's best to just take a step back and be sober with your expectations. That's what I'm doing right now. So I did that with the jewelry. I even started my own catalog. I even got, I found wholesalers. I knew from those 2 weeks where I was like, it was like a solid week or two where I was actually physically working full time creating jewelry, which I really love to do. But when I was actually making myself do it full time, I realized that it kind of sucked. It took the thing that I love doing and made it not fun. Because I had to sit at a table and beads they get everywhere. I didn't have to worry about my pets getting into it so much because my cats I had at the time were older. They weren't like a kitten. But it hurt my back and it sucked. I was isolated in my kitchen and I felt like I was, and you have to do it that way. You have to. I mean, there's a difference between doing something because you love it and doing something to make money. And if doing something to make money kills it for you, then it's something to learn about, because maybe you might decide that that's not for you. Maybe someday you will get so good at it and you'll be doing it so much that you'll be doing it that much time anyway, which for me, crochet is. I could easily crochet all day and be fine with that. And maybe I won't do it full time. Maybe it would just be a couple days out of my week. But I could, because I can do it sitting on my couch. I'm not hunched over at a table, stuck there. I do have to get up and get something to eat and take breaks. But the thing was, I have gone through this process of trying to figure out if I could create a piece of art to sell for many years. And I've tried it a couple of times. And the reality of the situation made it so that it wasn't worth it for me. And it kind of was disillusioning as well. There was once when I was doing a table with a friend of mine, and it was like a weekly flea market thing. And she went to school for like flower arrangements. So she was making fake flower arrangements. And I was making little stained glass things. I had created a prototype for ways to make these little luminary things that had mosaic on them, but they were stained glass. And some guy who had a table in the front liked them and he wanted to sell them. So he's better at selling those kind of things because he was selling very valuable things and we're just selling these little things. But yeah, he took my design and he just doubled the price. And I was like, I was slaving away making those things. And he was making a killing, just buying them from me at the price I wanted, and then doubling the price. I'm like, that's bullshit. And it was a prototype. It wasn't even good. But yeah, someday I'll show you guys, because it's pretty cool, and I could still do that if I want someday. And maybe I will. I don't know. But the closest thing that I've been able to do, and Mom and I both have sold things, so we both think, okay, can we make money doing this? My mom had mosaic clocks. She had jewelry that she was making, glass jewelry that she fired in her kiln, fused glass, which was very cool. And stained glass and mosaic, sometimes combined, sometimes separate, photo frames. And she had she had her work in several art stores. And you might think, if you see craft or an art store with local artists' work, you might think that anyone can just go and do that, and it gets juried. So the people who running the store, depending on the type of artwork they want, they might want something that's more fine art than what you're doing. So if that happens, do not be discouraged, and don't take it personally, because it's easy to do that. And they might deny your work because they might say that they're doing it could easily come across as like your work sucks. Sorry. We want to sell higher end things here. So just know that's part of the process. And that may or may not work for you, because depending on the customers that go in, it's very difficult to price your work. If you do craft fairs, depending on the circuit, there are people that have been doing it for decades that have worked their way over the years for their table to be in a desirable spot. Are you willing to do that? Depending on the craft
show circuit, are you willing to travel all over your state? So you get your expense for travel, you got your expenses for, if you're doing jewelry, you have to buy the boxes, you have to buy the little bags, you have to get something to ring up, you have to be able to take credit cards. And then there's the price. Depending on the craft fair you go to, you're paying them for using the table. And for a lot of people, they get so disillusioned because then they realize, oh my God, I'm spending more money on all of these expenses than I'm making. Yeah. And then a lot of times, see, people want a deal. When they come to craft fairs, they may be aware that they're handmade things, but in their mind, because a lot of these people don't do art, they think things should cost a lot less because they could buy a sweater at Walmart. Well, maybe it took you a whole month working on that sweater. You could say, okay, if you're making minimum wage, working 40 hours a week for 4 weeks, how much, and that's just in your labor. So when you're selling things, you may not be able to sell that garment. You may not be able to sell that particular piece of jewelry. So when you're doing something that's a business like that, you have to be able to decide, okay, what are things that I can make quickly, that I can charge less for? And you might have to take shortcuts. So, and then you also have to, as the artist, you have to develop a method of doing it almost conveyor belt style. So you have to break down the process. If it's a stained glass thing, you may have to make a whole bunch of them all at once. So you do a whole bunch of them in one phase. And then this is the only way to do it in a way that's efficient for you to be able to price it so it will sell. From what I've heard growing up in the particular art guild that I went to, almost all of them, none of them could really make a business doing their art. It's very difficult. I've thought about doing the craft fair circuit with my jewelry, but jewelry is a very difficult thing to do. You might want to pick something, if you have an art skill, that isn't as common, because everyone and their mother makes jewelry. And they may be slightly different, and that's okay. And you certainly can still do that. Like, let's say you're like, I don't care if I make money. I just want the experience. I want to try it out. It'd be fun. Go for it. It's just knowledge. I'm not sharing any of these experiences to discourage anyone from doing these things, but there's always like a million times more work, more time, more things that you realize. So just be aware. Yeah. And don't quit your day job, because every single one of those people in the guild, there's only been one person in my whole life that I have known that was able to make a living doing their art. And she does graphic design. When I was in college, I first went to college for performing and creative arts, and I didn't know which field I wanted to go into. So I found a degree in my local community college that they don't even have this major anymore. It was just like a basic liberal arts, but it was fine arts option. It was creative and performing arts, so it had everything. I enjoyed dance. I enjoyed all of it. I enjoyed singing. I used to be in the choir at school, and I would perform in pep rallies and do dance. I started doing those things later in life as a teenager, so I wasn't able to join the dance group. They wouldn't want me to, because usually the dance group are people who have been taking dance classes since they were little, so I didn't have that knowledge. It's something that it's like its own language. Like, they know specific steps and plie and this and that, and I didn't. I kind of just did my own thing. But that was fun. So yeah, I took acting classes, music, singing, dance, and then the fine arts, color and design, painting, fine art painting, all of that stuff. I ate it up. I loved all of it. I enjoyed a lot of it. It was fun. I really struggled in school and I ended up failing out because this was before I was diagnosed with ADHD and I couldn't understand why things were suddenly so much harder in college. I mean, I had struggled as it was, and they did warn us about that. But because I didn't know I had ADHD and there was no structure, they're like, "Hey, read all these chapters and we will have a test or you have to write a project." And you're like, "Yeah, sure, I'll do it." But you don't realize that in high school, when they're going through things in a smaller form, that you still have to do that, but for yourself. You think you can just go and read those chapters and just wing it, but it doesn't work that way. So in high school or when you're younger, they break it up into smaller pieces for you. That's why you have so many more assignments. So yeah, I'm kind of getting into a really long thing, and I didn't mean this to be an hour and a half. But I feel like, I don't know, it feels like I haven't been here in a month. So yeah, I have enough experience in the arts field to know very few people. I mean, there are people who do the craft show every single year. They love it. They find a way to do it. So maybe it'll work for you. Direct sales is a totally different thing. So it's not just doing the parties. You can do creative art and create your own parties that are very similar to the format of Avon, Tupperware, the candlelight parties. You can do those, you know? You can do that for any you just don't have it as a system that's designed for you with coaches and you're trained to. You know, you would have to learn those techniques on your own. You have to go get your own clientele. If you don't have sales experience and you don't know how to go out into the world and give a business card out and start talking to strangers in grocery stores, if that's like your nightmare, maybe direct sales are not for you, because that's part of it. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of things. And no matter what, if you're selling your work, whether you have an Etsy shop or you do direct sales, or you have your things in a gallery, in an art gallery, or you have your things in a local artist in a craft store, or you do the craft circuit, whatever format you do, you still have to buy the little bags to put your products in. If you have your things in a store, they do that. And you have the risk of your things being stolen. Just like any inventory of any store, your things might get stolen. And I don't know you have to ask the policy of the store. They will do the selling for you, but if you're not really good friends with them, what if they're not promoting your stuff? What if they decided to put your stuff in a place that's not really being seen? They might not get sold. And they also take like half. Just like the gentleman who bought all my stained glass things I made. He doubled the price. I was surprised that people bought it because they weren't really well constructed yet. That's why I wasn't going to charge a lot. Like the pieces, I didn't solder them. There were like 4 sides and I didn't have like a little brace or something on the bottom to kind of stop. So they kind of bent. I didn't have like a good frame. So yeah, they weren't good quality. And whoever bought them, I'm really sorry. You paid some guy a lot of money for them and they weren't well made because I was still learning. Yep. And what kind of shortcuts are you willing to take for your art? So, and you constantly have to be able to crank out a lot. The only other way is if you're only making a little bit here or there and you don't want to do your own business per se, but you just want to make it for fun and you want to sell things here and there, you might be able to find a local craft thing that's in your town. You can also go to the local stores that sell local artisan work in your town. That's a good thing to do. They will take a percentage, or you can ask them if they do pop-ups opportunities. Like in the summer, they might allow you to set up a table and sell some of your things there. I've thought about doing that. Then you can just make a few. But still, it wasn't like, because of my experiences and what I know, I haven't like wholeheartedly jumped into anything. I was starting that process with the jewelry. And I realized from the time that I was going to do it full time, and I timed myself that I'm not going to do this full time. So I still wanted to do a business. So what I did was I was going to supplement, and I realized, okay, well, maybe I can get artisan work. Maybe there's some things that I can buy wholesale from other countries if I feel good about it. If people aren't slave labor, you know what I mean? I don't want people that were just in a workshop, just sweatshop, so that I could make some money. I didn't want to do that because I'm an artist and I know you can't price an item what it's actually valued. You actually have to go down on your price, because you have to make less, usually less than minimum wage. I mean, you want to price it so that people will want to buy it. And you want it to be something that people can afford. A lot of times you'd have to price something so high that people can't afford to buy it, no matter how much they value it. So a lot of times when you see expensive stained glass lamps and they're hundreds of dollars, it's because it took a month to make it. It's more the time. The artisan had spent so much time and labor to make that product that's why it's hundreds of dollars. And really, that person's not getting paid very much at all. If you were to count the amount of hours that went into making that thing, they're making less than minimum wage. Even though you're spending hundreds of dollars on it, they're making nothing. Nothing. And the ones that you get at like Home Depot and all of that, they're probably made overseas. You can kind of tell too. Because if you're making something to sell, you have to take shortcuts. You have to take shortcuts. You're not going to be able to make a product that's to the degree of quality you want to, because then you have to like spend extra love and time on there, and you'd have to charge so much. So the thing with the pattern that came up that was ideal for me is I'm thinking, wow, are that many people buying these patterns? That kind of solved some problems for me. Out of all the things that I've tried, and everything I try to make, I always am timing it. Still. Oh, maybe this is something I can make. I can make a scarf in 2 hours, and it's nice. That's the only thing that I have considered selling in the last couple of years. And I'm still considering doing that because I can make some and sell it. But it wasn't enough for me to fill a whole table. And there is a local thing that I could do. And I probably wouldn't have to pay much, and it would be fun. So I've thought about that, but I have maybe like not even 20 of them. I could do a table for 1 or 2 weeks and that's it. And then it would take me another year. I don't have that much time if I'm working. So, how many scarves are people going to buy? So when I learned from one of the artists that was doing her YouTube channel, because there's artists that are very professional with their crochet, and I'm not to that point, that they've been making garments for so long. They're so professional. They're at that professional level that they can just crank out, invent, patterns all the time. And them. If you go, like the tutorial that I added for this, she has several things. So you don't have to necessarily, I wouldn't have to necessarily be to that level where I would have a channel doing tutorials and all of that, looking all nice. If you think about the time it takes to create one of those videos, even the shorts, it ends up taking a lot longer, because they're not just like me. This is not professional. I'm just turning on my camera and rambling in a vlog thing. But if you're doing something to sell, that's completely different. You want to look nice. You want to have your makeup on, your hair done. You want to have your best outfit. And you have to have somebody else take photos and video. And if you're doing a channel to promote, so people doing these patterns, even the ones that don't have these professional channels that are kind of like beginner or more in my range, you could still do it. But you would sell it on different platforms. And you could do it without having a channel. So I'm in that kind of jaded, like, okay, what's involved? Is this something that could actually make money? Realistically, this girl's claiming to make a lot of money, but can you really make a lot of money? And now I'm kind of going through that whole process. So that's why I've been gone for weeks, because there's a lot. Before you commit to doing a business, especially with art, it's like the holy grail. If you can find something that you can actually enjoy doing and not get ruined by you doing it as a business. I mean, it ends up usually when I take all these factors together, it ends up being not worth it. Like it ends up being like, well, I don't really want to do that. And that's okay. But the thing that was really made this actually pop into my head, I was like, wait a second. There are people that make money doing this besides like the super professional ones. You can? You can? And how many patterns do you have to make a week? And what would I have to do? And I'm like, I can do that. Whoa. I wouldn't have to crank out inventory. I wouldn't have to continually be spending laboring hours and hours and hours to create the actual garments. I could spend all of the time creating a pattern to teach somebody else to make it if it was in demand, if it was something that has a market. So I have to kind of like do all of this research to see if it's worth it. And if it turns out there's something there, that could be a really huge opportunity for me. As a neurodivergent person who has been so significantly burned out in the last few years, and I'm only working 1 day a week as a cashier, I desperately need something I can do that's not going to burn me out. And if I can do my own business and I can create a pattern that can sell over and over again. So now I've put all of this time into a PDF file. I don't have to crank out inventory. And then once it sells, crank out more inventory and labor and labor and labor for hours and days and weeks and months. And it can just like sell out. And now you don't have any more. And now you have to do more labor. That was ideal because I'm like, oh, you can create a pattern. I can write patterns. Why can't I do that? And if it does sell, that stays there forever. So it ends up being passive income if there's a market for it. So I don't know. I'm a little bit skeptical, but I've always kind of done this as a pastime. I haven't really tried to do a business with the crochet because I didn't want to labor doing it. I've never thought about it from the angle of I can make a pattern. Oh, I can make a PDF file. There are a lot of people who do it. And so my goal is to, right now, I'm learning different kinds of garment construction of different things that I haven't made yet. You know, I haven't really made a whole lot of different patterns. I've made a couple that I've made different versions of. So in order for me to do something like this, I need to learn garment construction and I need to learn a few different kinds of stitches. I need to go back and relearn how to do a pattern professionally. So I'm basically trying a whole bunch. I'm spending the time trying some of these things to see, okay, is this realistic? Is this something I can do? And is this something I would want to do? And is this something I can do without killing myself? Because if so, yeah. Wouldn't that be great? I need a way to make income. My channel, I haven't been here long enough to put in all the hours. I haven't done all the lives that my friend Genevieve has. I have had other situations going on in my life than she has. And she's a totally different personality from me. She is very extroverted and I'm not. I'm introverted. So I get a lot of my energy from withdrawing and resting and isolating, which can be a neurodivergent thing. I hope you guys are doing well. I guess the long and short of it is my cat's getting big. She's doing well. I'm doing well. I'm not sick. I have a bum arm that's healing. I think it's a tendon because if it was a muscle, it would have healed quickly. And there's multiple things that go in your shoulder joint. Incidentally, if you're ever around somebody, and this is one thing I did learn in nursing school, if you're around somebody whose shoulder pops out of the joint, do not put it back. That's one thing you don't want to pop back in the joint because there are blood vessels, tendons, and nerves. There's a whole bunch of things going on in your shoulder that's something that the average person can do way more damage. That's one of the things they really drove home to us in nursing school. So make sure if you go skiing or you do sports or you're around somebody and there's some freak accident, or if there's a car accident and everyone's fine, but somebody's you're going to want to put it back in. They're going to freak out and want it. So you need to tell them not to. And you need to call 911, get them to the hospital, and let the professionals deal with that, because it'll get worse. You'll have way more injury, and you don't want that. So yeah, another thing that I did was, like I did this test the other day because I've never had an injury with my shoulder and my arm. So I'm like, okay, I know that there's a lot of different kinds of injuries you can have. So how do I rule it out, since I haven't gone to the doctor yet? And I'm like, okay, what movements make it hurt? And does it hurt if I also not lift it on its own, but let it lay down completely limp and just pull it up with my other arm? So I'm not using any muscles, anything in my arm at all. I'm just physically lifting. So is it the fact that it's lifting, and does that cause pain? Because if that were the case, then maybe it's out of alignment, right? That didn't hurt me so much. It did if I got too high. It did if I got a little high, but generally it didn't. Only when I lifted it. So then I knew, okay, I don't know if something might be out of alignment, but to me that says tendon and or muscle. And because it still hurts and it's been a month, it's got to be a tendon. So I will do research on that and try to figure out how to heal it. I don't really have much else to catch you up on. I'm just really excited about this opportunity, this potential opportunity. And I've been practicing writing patterns. I've been practicing making different garments. And I've had a bunch of fails, which really, I forgot about that part. I forgot that when I found the sweater pattern that I liked, that I made different versions of, that I had multiple fails, and that took weeks. So that's going to be part of the process. And what else? Tapestry crochet. Any of you do pictures with crochet? That's very difficult, but I've been downloading different knitting and crochet apps, experimenting with them, seeing if I can use them to write patterns. And I'm designing a sweater that has flames. So that's really exciting. I'm not going to be spending a whole lot of time on this channel going forward talking about crochet, mostly sharing it with you as a neurodivergent person to show you, hey, this is my interest. This is like a special interest. I've been doing it long enough, and then I can totally lose myself and do it for days and days and be fine. And just, I feel like it's very calming for me too. But yeah, I'm excited. We'll see. I'm not going to have any high expectations. For a minute, I was actually like, yes, this girl makes tons of money. I can do this. But then I was like, wait a minute. How much money do people actually make? And then, okay, it's a lot less. So I will go by what she says. And I did download her list of things to do, because she does teach you. But I knew she probably had a program that you have to pay for, which she does. So then I had to take her claims with a grain of salt, because she needs you to believe she makes a lot of money for you to buy her program to teach you how to make your own business. So I got the free version. I'm not buying any program from anybody. I am going to do all of the labor of trying to create different garments. First, I have to find patterns and I'll find tutorials on here of that type of garment. So I might find one that's V. I might find one that has two that go this way. I might find one that has two panels front and back. I might find different kinds of construction methods. And then in order to do that, I happen to try a tutorial from something that's already here. Not to copy it, but just to learn garment construction. And incidentally, it was very interesting to learn that this came out just like the ladies, but I forgot that I used to work with clothes for many years. I worked in little boutiques, and certain shapes of garments in fashion look good on different shapes of people. So even though technically this sweater came out exactly like the one that she did, it could be because I made it a little bit looser. It doesn't hang on me the same. And it was funny because these things were hanging out yesterday and I felt like I was wearing a white garbage bag. So we'll see. I'm trying to adapt the pattern to see if I can make changes to make it lay better. And so I started another one. And this is the same yarn, same exact yarn, same company, just a different color variation of hot pinks and grays. So we'll see what happens. And I'm sorry if this is terribly boring, but I love you guys. And it's a horrible video, but I'm going to post it anyway. And I hope you're doing well. Drink your water. Eat if you haven't eaten today. I haven't had lunch. I'm going to go do that. Bye. See you soon.